Hi, is this Fred?
This is Fred.
Hi, Fred. It's Vince from Paranormal Conviction. How are you today?
Good, good.
Good, good. Listen, first off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for agreeing to share your story. It's much appreciated. And
Not a problem.
we'll get right into it. So, as I understand it, you were blindsided by your experience because you walked into a restaurant, and it's one of these types of restaurants where several people who don't necessarily know each other share a table, and you were sharing a table, or at least were sitting close by to a very famous psychic.
As it turns out, correct. I certainly did not know.
Gotcha. All right, so go ahead. You tell me what happened.
It was an interesting day. My wife and I were discussing this again the other day, and it comes up from time to time. And I can't believe it feels like it was a couple of years ago, but in fact, it looks like it was back in 2013. So I could be off on that, but in any event, some of the events feel like they happened a week ago, and it was one of those days. I had been out. We had friends visiting with us, from out west. We were obviously in New York, and so we had been talking about getting together for some sushi with my friends, dear friends, and we've shared many of those meals together. We love it, and it's great. I had a particularly rough day that day. I remember business-wise, they tagged along, and coming back, I was pretty exhausted. And we had picked a place. We had picked a place that wasn't too far from my home to go and have the actual sushi. So it was a particular place, and for some reason, on the way there, we started talking about another restaurant that we had gone to a while. It just came up in conversation that we'd gone to once before. And I was thinking, it's just that kind of day. And I said, you know what, rather than, mess around, let's go to a sure thing. So that was really my decision at that point. So, which ties into my feeling about the whole experience. So we sort of just, kind of drove past the first restaurant and headed towards this other one. It was like on autopilot. So we went to the restaurant, and we get in there, and we had not obviously made a reservation. So we, the person standing, at the little welcome table that they have, she said, "Would you like to wait? Would you like to wait for a table, or do you want to just sit over there?" And I think she said with the main people. I don't know if that was actually what she said, but I looked over and I said, whatever, it's okay. I just wanted to sit down and eat. Again, long, crazy day, and just said, let's just do it. As we started to approach the table, I started to become aware of, some professional, broadcast TV type equipment.
Like a film crew.
Not as large, just somebody with a camera. There was actually a boom mic, which I didn't notice when I first came in, and so it was kind of funny because at that point I said, you know what, they're probably going to film a commercial, and I'm thinking, I'm pretty good with chopsticks. This will be my moment, and it was haha, So I sit down and I'm actually fiddling around with my chopsticks because I said, all right, get it together, and waiting for this to happen. And so we sit down, and there's a woman with a very interesting hairdo, obviously her husband and two kids. So my wife, who is, let's just say, very sociable, starts to engage with this woman. And before long, she starts to talk about some stuff, and then I think my friend, who was my friend Michael, might have recognized her at that point. We none of us did initially, and then it started to come. I still had no clue. I had never seen the show. I had no idea.
What show is this?
So, Long Island Medium.
And she was from the show, or?
She is the show. It was Teresa Caputo.
So you sat down, and this is a woman from a famous show, and what, she's a psychic?
Yeah, apparently so. And again, I had no clue who she was. My friend Michael, I think, did. My wife didn't, I don't believe. However, interestingly, when we start to talk, they start to share some history. Oh, where are you from? Because apparently they were there for her daughter's high school graduation. She graduated from a school, I believe, in Hicksville. My wife is from Hicksville. And before long, they start talking, oh, did you know this person? Did you know that person? A name came up, and my wife actually said, do you know so-and-so? And she basically said, oh, my God, that's who got me into all of this. So, bizarre started to start piling up. And so, to me, bizarre. A lot of people, I've been a lifelong skeptic. To me, that whole, the psychic world was all, people that just, they just know how to put things together. They know the, commonalities throughout people's lives. And so, is there somebody whose name starts with G? And there's a good chance that somebody, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, we get past the introduction.
But you were a lifelong skeptic.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I mean, obviously you've heard through your lifetime that people talk about ghosts, UFOs, this type of thing, but it wasn't something you were ever interested in. It was nothing you ever thought about. You didn't even believe that it was necessarily real.
Yeah, I'm from the school of, you have to prove it. I mean, show me some proof.
Right.
And so people said, well, yeah, but we have these experiences. We had a friend who passed away years ago, very, very dear friend of my wife. And I believe before she passed away, she was on a show. I think it was John Edwards, I think.
Who was also, that was a psychic show.
Yeah, and I, again, never watched that one before, but I happened to because I was told that she was on. She was actually on that show. And I watched it, and again, I wasn't necessarily convinced. We were obviously concerned. We knew our friend was not well and, was going through some stuff. Anyway, so more involved because of that as opposed to my interest in this, phenomenon, whatever. Anyway, so we...
So you're at the dinner, and they start finding out, oh, it's a small world.
Yeah. So we do that. And then she introduces herself, and she says, well, I'm Teresa Caputo. I'm from the Long Island Medium, and if you don't mind, and, we just said, and I was in that mode. My day was a rough day, and I just said, whatever, that's fine. We're here to eat, and if we have some conversation, that's fine. So with that, now, understand, we walked in this restaurant. None of us really, I didn't address my wife by her name. Nobody called me by my first name, which is Fred. And, so we're sitting there, and I'm trying to eat the appetizer, whatever. And as soon as she ends with a, so is it okay, she immediately says, who's Fred? And now I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm not wearing anything. I don't have a T-shirt that says my name is Fred. I don't know how she could possibly understand there's a Fred there, but I said, okay. So everybody looked at me and pointed at me, and I put my hand up, and I said, that would be me. And she then proceeds to say, and she doesn't miss a beat. She doesn't miss a beat, which was amazing to me. She then says, there's a woman who is, I guess, the mother of a friend of yours who wants to thank you for coming to honor her. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's probably very close to that. And the history behind this is that the people that we were with, our friends.
The people you were out to dinner with.
Yes. Okay. The woman had been married to somebody previously who was a friend of ours as well. And his mother had passed away very recently. She was to be buried in New York. They were also from out west. her ex-husband, our friend. So I heard that they were coming into town. My mother happened to be in town at the time, who was well into her 80s at that point. And I heard that they were, going to this cemetery. We happen to know where the cemetery is. I said to my mother, "Ma, how do you feel about going to the cemetery with me?" And she said, "Okay, I'll go." I mean, she's a great sport about lots of stuff. So we go and we show up unannounced, and we were greeted, and it was great to see them. And it was, obviously not a fun occasion, but it was really good to get together. But I had decided that, they were coming in, there weren't lots of people left, and I thought it was the right thing to do to go and honor, his mother by supporting him. And I just scratched my head, and I just said, how does that come? That's not the kind of thing where they say, do you have a brother? Do you have, some generality? This was so specific, and you can't make that up. It's like she wants to thank you for honoring her.
So she says this to you, right? And you're like, had a hard day, you're probably in another world, you just want to eat. She says this to you, were you just like, what just happened here?
Yeah, exactly. You said it better than me, but you're obviously more in the business than me. I will say that that's exactly it. I was, almost in a fog most of the day. It was just a very strange thing. And then for her to say that, it just knocked me out. So that was.
So what would you say to her when she says, this lady wants to honor you? Were you just like, oh, okay, well, thank you?
Well, the interesting thing about the show is when they edited the show, and I just found it online the other day. They edited it, and they had some interesting stuff on there. In my opinion, especially with this particular episode. Now, keep in mind, I'm not an editor, but I think I probably could have done a better job because the stuff that they didn't include was just mind-boggling.
I was like, why didn't they include this? I can't believe it.
I'm a little surprised, but that's okay. She got what she got, and I'm not a professional. They know what they're doing. This was, I guess, the Learning Channel, whatever. So
that was it.
Another story. I mean, yeah. So the other start was one of the major things, which was our friend Randy, whose dad had passed away, and we knew him very well. That's all documented on that show, that episode. And so that was just very touching and very emotional. Obviously, largely to Randy and to us as well. I mean, we just knew the family. Some of the things about how the grandmother would kiss the baby's feet. I mean, she was describing this scenario to a T, and it wasn't normal stuff. Like the grandma would take each foot and move it back and forth, and you could see Teresa Caputo's facial expression when she sees that. Like, she was genuinely shocked. But one of the other stories, I'm going to try to remember this to the best of my ability, but our friend Michael
is one of the friends that you were still out to dinner with that night?
That is correct, yeah. And Michael had worked out west with a number of people, and they were very close with a particular couple. The couple had a daughter who was pretty young. I don't remember if it was 13 years old or young. I don't remember, but she had been, I believe it was horseback riding. She was thrown and taken to the hospital in pretty bad condition. They tried to get in touch with the parents, and I think they actually reached the friends first. I'm not sure exactly how that played out, but that's what happened. They went to the hospital, and the young girl passed away. It was a horrible, horrible story. They were good friends. We did not know these people, but, they were telling us the story within the past week. And he was saying at the funeral, they set free something like 13 butterflies or whatever the number was, it was a specific number, and they set these butterflies free. And Teresa says, she then goes into this story about how, this young girl, and she said something about at the funeral, they did something. I forget what they said. They did candles. She goes, no, not candles. And then, honestly, at this point, I was so blown away. But she actually almost described to a T what we had been told from our friends about what happened to their friend's child. It was over the top, because that alone would have been enough. But from the initial who's Fred, and then that story, and then Randy with her father, and the grandmother interacting with
the baby.
The baby. It was
Gotcha. So all right. So at this point, you're like hit with like 4 different things that are just like, whoa, like was this person been following us, for years, right? And then and you're trying to get through your appetite. Did you like lose your appetite? Were you like, oh my God, it's like I can't.
Well, interestingly, I did not, and most of the people that saw this, friends of mine, and even people when we were living in a different place at that point in Long Island, and I would go into a supermarket, pick up a few things, I'd be online, and you see people like turning their head and putting their hands over their mouth, talking to the next person, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Something weird around here. And then one of them would come over and say, "Are you that guy that was on the Medium? Was that real?" And I said, "That was me." And so I instantly became a celebrity. I had another interesting story with a business meeting I had. This was out in the Hamptons again, and sitting at a big table with builders and developers and designers and all serious stuff. And at the end of this meeting, I'm ready to leave, and one of the guys says, "By the way, I want you all to know that we're sitting here with a celebrity." And I'm thinking, who's the celebrity? What's he talking about? And then he looks at me, and then for the rest of the day, people that you would not imagine would be interested at all. That was the sense I got from working with these people. Spent the next, easily 45 minutes just asking me all sorts of questions, and
about the experience.
Is this real? Everybody wanted to know, and again, it was kind of interesting because people I've had a completely different relationship with, very professional, and interact on different levels with regard to, the stuff that we were doing, but nothing like this. And it's amazing. It was amazing to me the reaction when people would recognize you. Anyway, I think I got off the track a little bit. The bottom line was, for some reason, I did not lose my appetite, and I sort of ate my way through that whole thing. It was I don't know if it was nervous eating. I'm not quite sure what it was at that point.
And so that was the first time you had any kind of close interaction or, communication with a psychic on any kind of personal level.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, skeptic for life, did this change your opinion in any way, your belief structure, anything? Did it tweak it a little bit? I mean,
it was interesting. I could not, having been, so personally involved in this, as opposed to shows that you might see or some, magician who, creates some illusion. Having it so close, it's hard to deny. I mean, she did not. I have to say that there was not one thing, from what I can recall that evening, that she wasn't spot on about. I mean, personal stories that we had known, and so much so that on the ride home, I mean, we were all just numb on the first, portion of the ride home.
because of the experience.
Because of the experience, but we talked about it, and then it was like, Fred, did you put it? Did you set how did you set this up, or who could have done this? So we talked about it. We said, well, who could have done it? We were going to another restaurant. Last minute we decided, and by the way, it wasn't just me saying, let's go to this restaurant. It was that conversation that we had. And there wasn't anything definitely set up. We could very easily have gone to the first restaurant. We were passing it, and then last minute, I just said, let's just keep going. So, yes, we were all into the idea of that restaurant or this restaurant. It didn't really matter, but it was my ultimate. I was the one that drove by. I was in the car, and I just drove by. I'm not saying that had anything to do with what went on that night, but maybe it did. And so...
So whatever that thought process is, like, okay, this happened. Wow, maybe there is something to it. Have you thought about that at all anymore since that time? And that was years ago. Like, do you think differently?
Quite a bit. It's not something you could just dismiss. You just can't. And for people, scientists and people with that sort of mindset, they scratch their head. You can't dismiss it. It was very specific stuff, and it wasn't one thing that was, sort of on the periphery of what could have been. It was very, very specific. Very specific. And again, she didn't say, is there somebody here whose name starts with a B or an F or a G or a C, going through the whole alphabet till she hits it. It was
nailed it.
And we didn't make reservations. And if I did, I wouldn't have used my first name anyway. I would usually do either my wife or a last name. So there was nothing giving any of that away. But who's Fred? How does that happen? And then, coupled with that story, I was thinking at a point, and it was funny because I'm in the back of my mind, I'm saying, we weren't even going to come to this restaurant. Who could have set it up? And we thought maybe our friend Randy's son, Matthew, maybe he, but there's no way. First of all, there's no way. It's impossible.
Matthew's going to he's going to call this film company or this TV show and be like, I'll call you at the last minute if they switch restaurants. I mean, it's too.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
it's impossible. And again, had I just pulled into the parking lot of the first restaurant,
that would have been it.
I'm going to say this wouldn't have happened, but now, after this, I would say this most probably wouldn't have happened, because who knows if we pulled into that, and if, Teresa decided, well, maybe we should go to another restaurant. I mean, who knows at this point? But I believe that it would not have happened. So, for whatever reason, we drove on. Is that part of it? Maybe. I don't know. But I will say, how did it affect me? I have a much more open mind now. And I mean,
for sure,
super skeptic. Super skeptic. You can't. I mean, I can't. I've seen magic tricks. I understand the number of them, how they work. Some I say, wow, that's really, even though it's this way, it was really amazingly, pulled off. But this, you can't make this up.
Right.
You can't.
So would you go so far as to say that, so you were skeptic, so at one time you were totally on one side of the fence. Would you say you lean towards the other side of the fence now, or you're totally on the other side of the fence, or you're looking over the fence like, maybe this is what's over there?
So many years of being a skeptic, to say, am I completely on the other side? I'm certainly leaning in that direction. There's no question. Am I on the other side of the fence? I might be.
Have you experienced anything else since then that you could definitely say, that was real weird too?
No, I can't honestly say that I have.
Okay.
This was, it's interesting also because, for this, to be exposed to this event, which it was, so many people want to have readings with this person, with Teresa Caputo. And they as far as I know, they go out of the way to try to do it. She can't do everybody that wants to have a reading. And we just fell into this. And Yeah, I'm on the other side of the fence.
So if you're on the other side of the fence, then you would say that it was life-altering experience.
Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
still.
That's interesting.
Like I said, it doesn't feel like it was as long ago as it was. I mean, there's some details, some a little sketchy. How many butterflies, that kind of thing. I think it was 13 was the number.
Yeah.
I could be mistaken, but when she elucidated, when she was reaching for it, whatever her process is, she's reaching there, or it's coming to her, whatever that is, and it was like she was. Oh no! It wasn't this. It was that, and she was correct. It wasn't that. It was this. So,
right. Is she like weeding out the options or something as they're coming in?
Right.
Or just like zeroing in on it, focusing in on it.
Right. Not by trying to make up a better story. Just wait a second.
The truth
happened, and it came in. And it was interesting because after this, it was pretty mind-boggling. It was a funny little thing after, but we asked her, how does this happen? One of the kids just said, she just wherever she is, they're tired of it. You could see they're just like, okay, Mom, just do what you got to do, and let's get back to what we're doing. It was pretty funny. She said, why don't we just get this, just go through it, get it over with, and let's get back to, this life. She said, she goes, and I'm going to quote, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, she said something like, we said, well, how do you have this power? She goes, she says, I think she said, I'm like an idiot housewife from Long Island, or some kind of, just a housewife from Long Island. And she says, it just happens. It just happens.
So she didn't say. So she didn't go into detail about how she does it or anything. Maybe she doesn't even know.
No, I don't think she does know. I mean, it seemed to me she was just saying, I go through life, and this stuff just happens. I'm a lightning rod or what.
Exactly. Right? Some people just might be more sensitive to that type of energy, or tuned in, or whatever, share the same frequencies, whatever. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and interestingly, because my wife has always been a believer. She's had many experiences that she's shared with me throughout her life. I've not been there for a lot of them, but she shared with me.
So she was a believer. You were a skeptic. When she would tell you this stuff, when she would tell you this stuff, were you like crazy? Like, what do you think about people that when you didn't believe in it, whatever? What did you think about these people who were like, yeah, no, this is real?
It was like, knock yourself out, whatever you want to believe in. I'm fine with that. I'm not upset with you. We could still be friends. I don't think you're a weirdo. Some people to greater degree than others, but my wife is, she's a genuine person. And, I heard what she said, and I said, all right, maybe. And, I would refer, I remember I had a very, very vivid dream when I was a little kid, a real kid, and it was this green guy that came into my room, and it took me out and brought me down into the garage and was like pushing me into this little space, and I was completely freaked out. And I remember my father came to my rescue. He heard me, I guess, and came and made me a malted in the kitchen, whatever it was, and calmed me a little bit. I was able to sleep. I've never forgotten that. And, and then it's funny because years after this experience, I said, I wonder if that guy was real.
Because it was that strong, the memory.
Oh, my God, yes. I mean, absolutely just, of all the dreams throughout my entire life, that's the one that I keep, it was so real. There was a green guy in my room, a little green guy. Anyway, so that was interesting. And then I remember, with regard to all of this stuff, I remember leaving the restaurant saying, "Oh, is my wife going to say I told you so?" Because it was that impressive. I don't know how else to phrase it.
Yeah.
I'm still a pretty pragmatic guy. I do banking like a lot of people. I use ATMs and go about my life doing stuff. I'm not chasing any of the supernatural, however you want to phrase it. That found me. I didn't chase it. It found me, and that's one of those things in your life that is very, very memorable.
Yeah.
It's like not to diminish, other wonderful things in your life, like
right.
children and family and friends, etc. But that is something that was, life altering.
A lot of these people who claim that they have, these paranormal or supernatural experiences or with UFOs or something like that they all say that it's like so far out of reality that one, you're never going to forget it for sure ever again.
Yeah.
But that it's so like it's like something you would never ever be able to even conceptualize, in any movie or any dream or any. It's like so far gone out of reality, and it would make sense that a lot of people freak out and others, deal with it better, whatever. But very interesting.
Well, and again, living with a woman who had certainly an interest in that phenomena, and she, she'll watch a lot of the shows that I turn the news on. She turns on Ancient Aliens, or she'll listen to a podcast with Whitley Strieber for one. A number of people that she's talked about, and my thing was okay, that's fine.
Not anymore.
That's okay. But now I think about some of this stuff differently. When I look at the show, I'm looking at it through, I can't say different eyes, but sort of.
But it hasn't interested you enough to now watch Ancient Aliens or go and listen to Whitley Strieber by yourself, just on your own.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there yet, to be honest. But we went on a very interesting trip recently. Maybe getting off the topic a little bit, but we went to a place in South Dakota, and there was sort of a gathering of some people, and actually Whitley Strieber was one of them. And some of it was for me, some of it was not. We wound up leaving early, but when I listened to him, I listened, and I probably would have gone to this anyway because it was important to my wife to go. But again, as I say, you're kind of, you're listening through a different filter, or maybe less of a filter.
After that.
So, yeah. So I'm not. I don't pursue.
Right.
I don't pursue that stuff. But if it comes before me, I'll listen. I will definitely.
You're
listen.
right. You won't tune out as much maybe right away.
Yeah. So it's it was an amazing experience.
Well, that's great. It's a good story, and what I'm super duper interested in is the human aspect in terms of the experience, because these people don't choose to have these experiences for sure, for the most part. I mean, maybe as it becomes more popular culture, or as it has become more popular culture, people might be like, yeah, I'd like to do that. And there's definitely people who reach out and try to make contact and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think my understanding is that whatever happens, whether it's a UFO or experience like you had or something, it's not something that these people go looking for. Certainly in our experience, they don't go looking for it, and so I'm really interested in that experience. Like what happened now? How has it changed you? Did it change you? What do you? Are you cool with it? Just that and so that's it. But that's a great story, Fred, and I want to thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Pleasure.
Yeah. And listen, if anything, comes up again, anything you want to share, anything happens, feel free to, reach out and contact us anytime.
All right, careful what you ask for.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, then. Thank you so much, Fred.
A pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I want to thank you all for listening to this episode. Please feel free to contact us if you want to share any experiences at paranormalconviction@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time.